Hi, welcome back to Adonai, and I am Michelle. I know it's been quite some time, and definitely no excuses. God willing, we will be finishing the series on seasons of transitioning soon, way sooner than later. But I've been away dealing with a few things. Life, right? Actually, grief, mourning, and the Father pressed it upon my spirit to take a moment to share this message that He divined to me. We wrote it out here, so I'll be reading from my notes, and it's just that a note of love about grief. And so let's get started, of course, with defining what grief means. Grief is defined as deep or intense sorrow or distress, especially at the death of someone, or something that causes keen distress or suffering. The American Psychological Association pens grief as the anguish experienced after a significant loss, usually the death of a beloved person. Grief often includes physiological distress, separation anxiety, confusion, yearning, obsessive dwelling on the past, and apprehension about the future. The 7 stages of grief are as follows: 1, shock and denial; 2, pain and guilt; 3, anger and bargaining; 4, depression; 5, the upward turn; 6, reconstruction and working through; and the 7th, acceptance and hope. So in recent years, I'll say I've grown to recognize grief as that of a companion or associate. And so companion, right, defined as one that accompanies another, one that keeps company with another, and associate to join as a partner, friend, or companion. And so to get into, hop right into the note that the Father divined and we penned. Here we go. Not necessarily the ideal guest you're apt to invite anywhere with you, but when it shows up, I no longer shun it, turn it away, suppress it, and ignore it. Sort of like house guests, that family that may pop up, not always at the most opportune times. It's surprising, but I'm still kind, warm, and welcoming. I now invite grief in when it knocks. I create a comfortable and nurturing space for it. We converse together, feel together, cry together, acknowledge one another, and ultimately heal together. Versus when I was younger, I'd ignore the knocks when grief came banging at my door and refuse to let it in. Instead, I turned to unhealthy habits, behaviors, vices that drowns out these knocks. Temporarily, of course. The things that only suppressed the pain, aided in my ignoring it, compartmentalizing, drowning out grief's loud knocks long enough for me to focus on doing other things. Long enough before I'd explode, erupt like a volcano. Because that's what happens when we allow things to brew, fester underneath the surface without acknowledging it. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom. Of course, Adonai told me that I could no longer proceed in that manner and taught me how and what to do moving forward when it comes to grief. He knows and acknowledges the feelings, emotions that we deal with while we're journeying the earth in these temporary flesh suits. And we must do so as well. So now, when grief knocks on my door, I feel it real time in healthy ways. I actually let grief in. Now, I might make it wait at the door for a few minutes. Because, I was cooking before grief knocked or rang the doorbell. So first, I have to lower the stove or oven to a temperature that's safe enough for me to briefly step away, wash my hands, dry them. Because when you think of it, sometimes it's like grief sniffs you out and smells when you're cooking something quite delectable. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm OT dub. And before you know it, randomly pops up. In those moments, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I was vibing. I do not have time to be in my feelings right now. Logically, I literally have no time for that. Grief was absolutely not an ingredient I had in mind for what I was cooking up. And I mean, I was cooking. Whether it was actual food being cooked up, or it could actually be something along the line of a project God has you working on, whatever task you're checking off your to-do list, any creative endeavors you're setting out to complete, business ventures, whatever it is you're doing, and you just find yourself in that mode. You're in a groove of getting things done. Again, checking things off your list, reaching those goals, setting new ones, big and small. You're cooking, okay? And grief was nowhere in your list of ingredients, and it definitely was nowhere on your menu. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, grief knocks. Sometimes subtly, other times loudly. And it's like, I'm here now. Here I am. Let me in. Because there's no more ignoring me and turning to unhealthy vices or shoving me beneath the surface. Because eventually you'll just erupt like a volcano. And that's no bueno for you or anyone else. And I'll still be here after the eruption, knocking, waiting to come in. So, when grief comes, I no longer leave its knocks unanswered. No matter what I'm in the process of cooking up, I lower the temperature to allow it to come to a temporary stopping point. I wash my hands. I dry them. I mosey on over to the door. I unlock it. I open it. I face grief. I greet it. I invite it in. I nurture our sacred relationship. Hi, grief. I was not expecting you this evening, but since you're here, come in, take a seat. Dinner is almost ready. Join me. Let's feel, work through, and heal whatever it is we're needing to tonight. Yes, grief, I agree. Dinner was lovely. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Oh, you were planning on staying the night. Oh, okay, fine. The guest bedroom is prepared just for you. We'll make it a sleepover and continue feeling and healing through whatever it is we're needing to together. Now, while I am a wonderful, warm host, I don't allow anyone, including grief, to overstay their welcome. Grief. Well, it's been real. I won't say it's been real nice, but it has definitely been real. You've been here a couple of nights. Now, it's the third day since you've arrived for this visit, and well, you have to go. Because I have to get up and get back to cooking. You are always welcome here, but take your time. You do not have to rush back swiftly. I mean at all. Now, once we bid our adieus and grief departs, I rise. Get back to cooking, but not before a period of reflection. What grief had not felt, worked through, fought, and healed through this time around. And upon doing so, not only did love, growth, healing take place, but some flavorful seasoning were deposited for me to utilize as I shifted back into that mode to get back cooking along my journey. In other words, when we face grief, welcome it in. Cultivate and nurture a relationship with it. It gives Adonai space to utilize that grief to build us, to mold us, to strengthen us and refine us. To sort of use that grief, the pain, the trauma, whatever it is for you, as a furnace likened to the one Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego found themselves in. God uses it to usher us into higher levels of growth, healing, and for us to evolve a level closer to who He created us to be. To learn the things He needed us to as a result of that time we spent with grief, in order for us to re-emerge saucy, okay? Flavorful, super sauced up, and of course, smelling like no smoke, ready to press forward towards the mark of God's high calling, as it states in Philippians 3:14, and to accomplish everything God has designed us to do so in that season we find ourselves transitioning into. And that is the love of the Most High God, our Father, who art in heaven, Adonai, our master teacher. That is, so profound. I pray this helped you and you felt God's warm embrace somewhere in this message of Him speaking directly to and loving on you. Of course, it is extremely important that you chop it up with God yourself to be sure, and ask Him for confirmation on whether or not this message actually is for you. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeking God and being committed to building and maintaining intimacy with God together. With love, Adonai and I am Michelle. Blessings.